I'm Taylor Oracle. Thank you so much for joining me for this is the second to last one of Tarot Symbology. Thank you so much for joining. I think we have the court cards for the swords, and then we should be done. And as always, I greatly appreciate you joining me for these because it's fun to present this, and it's fun to have people comment and tell me stuff that I didn't even notice, etc., etc. So now we're doing the court cards of the cups. Obviously, this represents emotions, and we have different styles of cups on the queen versus the other characters as well. So the first thing to notice, commonality between these, right? Everyone is sort of looking at a cup, except for the king. The king is not looking at a cup. He's sort of looking at us, or sort of a side glance to the cup, who knows. But we do have a definitive page staring at the cup intently. We do have the queen, again, with a more decorative cup, much more decorative cup in a different style. And then we have the knight, again, staring directly at the cup. But the king looks like he's just sort of looking at us, or he's sort of sneakily, casually looking at the cup, not facing towards it and things like this. So another thing to notice is the commonality of the fish. We have fish in every single card. All right. We have a fish, obviously, master of the obvious, coming out of the cup on the page. We have a fish here being held by what looks like a child angel inside of the throne. And then we have sort of mermaid children up top that look like half fish, half children. And then obviously we have the fish on the outfit of the knight. And then finally we have the whale, or I believe it's a whale dolphin, or some animal, sea animal, jumping into frame, sort of giving us a smile and a look from a distance on the king. So all of these have fish. So that's a very interesting sort of perspective on the cups. Now let's go for the page and sort of isolate that out and see what we have going on for the page of cups. First thing you'll notice, obviously, is a decorative hairdress or headdress that he has that is blue, that sort of matches the turbulent waves in the background. We have more turbulent waves as we come to the king. The waves are less turbulent with the knight and the queen as well. So we have the fish. It's almost like he's talking to the fish, communicating with the fish. He has an ability to do that. The fish is sort of coming out and almost speaking to him. So we have this role or this insinuation of communication. So we have this communication between the page and the fish. In addition, the page is sort of holding the cup out, looking at it, looking at the fish. There's not much really to go on as far as here, other than his outfit being sort of slightly red. So again, this is sort of an emotion, that pinkish type loving color, you know, the sort of the rose color that we have there, as well as the flowers that he has on his outfit as well, sort of point to that link of emotion that we have. And it's an emotional connection. And a lot of times when I pull the page of cups, you sort of get that idea of the emotional connection between him and the fish. So I always think of sort of the page being sort of not really the neophyte, but more of a beginner as far as the court goes. And that sort of is represented here by, you know, the beginner, or again, not neophyte, but a little less experienced as far as emotion goes. So if you pull this and you're looking for a relationship, and maybe somebody that's emotionally, you know, not that well honed as far as that, maybe a younger person that sort of has a lot of waves in emotions, get it, waves in emotions, or shifts in emotion. It doesn't quite have that emotional stability that we find with some of the other cards. So sort of points to, again, that emotional immaturity almost that we have, but the emotional immaturity and the lack of hardened emotions and hardened logic and things like that gives him the ability to communicate emotionally with the fish and with other people as well. So it's good emotional communication, and it's very very interesting card as well. So that is the Page of Cups. Now the Knight is traditionally sort of the not really the message giver. That's more of the page, but sort of goes out and collects things, goes out and does the warrior type things, and he's pretty well dressed as far as having a complete suit of armor. So he's well protected in a lot of ways for this particular card. But he does have the fish on sort of a shawl or an outfit that goes outside of that as well. But he's also staring at the cup, and you kind of wonder, is there a fish in there as well? Just not really appearing. So the horse looks kind of happy. He's almost has a smile on his face, and we have that gentle stream that's going across, giving us that link to water. So we have emotions, but we also have movement with emotions, being the horse moving across. We also have the horse in sort of a good mood, almost, and again with the fish and the connection with water, connection with emotion. So he is heavily armored. It could mean that he's heavily protected emotionally, right? He's protected emotionally. He's able to handle those emotional spikes that we all get when someone breaks up with us or someone insults us or things like that. So he has that emotional maturity, maybe not as much as the king, who has almost this stoic attitude that's going along with him, but he does have that emotional stability. And that's an important thing with the Knight of Cups as well, is to get that emotional stability that we didn't have with the page. But along with that emotional stability comes a bit of that, not the neophyte, but again of that immaturity that is required to do things like talk to a fish. So that is the Knight. We have the water with the connection of emotions. We have the mountains in the background, which point us to challenges and point us to things that could go poorly later on, but they're in the distance and they're separated by a stream. So we do have that emotional connection. We have that happy attitude of the horse sort of sneaking in, as well as we're armored emotionally. We have that stability to handle those emotional spikes that we all get, as well as we have the connection with the fish. Even though we're well armored, we're still able to communicate. We're still able to connect emotionally with other people and connect emotionally with ourselves and understand ourselves with our emotions. And that is the Knight of Cups. And of course the Queen staring at a quite more decorative cup. What does the decorative cup mean? To me, the decorative cup means that her range of emotions or her depth of emotions is more complex than, let's say, the king, who has just a simple cup, or the page or the knight or things like that. I think her femininity allows her to have a more broader range of emotion and a more complex range of emotions, and thus you see the more complex cup. And I think that's important to understand here, because we have her sitting on a throne surrounded by water, which you also have on the king, which is more isolated. But as we age, in my opinion, this symbolizes, as we age, we're a bit more disconnected emotionally. In other words, we have lost possibly that page's ability to connect with, if someone told him, you can't really talk to a fish, you can't emotionally connect with the fish or whatever, then he'd be like, what? I'm doing it right now. So I think you have that attitude gone, and you have a more isolated set of emotions. When I say isolated, as we mature as people, then our emotions become a bit more complex. We don't just have rage, or we don't just have lust, or things. It becomes more, instead of just black and white in a lot of different ranges of emotion, black and white with anger, or black and white with love, or things like this. We have a more complex set. So we have 100 different shades of gray in between the black and white. And I think that's what points to that. I think that her femininity allows that range of emotion, and it allows her to connect with that range of emotion that many other people don't have. However, at the same time, now that we've aged, or now that she's aged and become maybe a bit more jaded, right? Maybe a bit more hurt and a little more isolated emotionally. And so you get this isolated island sort of thing. It's still connected over here to something, obviously, maybe an inlet or whatever. But you do have the mountains in the background point to challenges, but her challenges are far, far higher and deeper than, let's say, the knight. Again, he's a little younger, and as we age and become the queen, we do have the complex set of emotions. We do have a bit more isolation, but we do have that connection, and that's why we have the children all over the throne. And I think the children sort of show you that we can connect to the range of emotions that we need, even though they're complex. And we can get back to that, childish state where everything is fun and things like that. So we're not disconnected from that quite yet. And she's looking at it, sort of concentrated on it as well. So that is the Queen of Cups. And finally, we have the king. Now, he is completely isolated. He has water all around him. He's way far out. And that's indicated by the ship and the whale, or assuming that's a whale. This does not look like a dolphin to me. It looks like a whale. So we're getting back to the isolationism of emotion. He does have the fish necklace as well as the whale. And he is holding a cup and a scepter, and it points to his power and his masculinity. But both of those have sort of isolated him emotionally. He's sort of in a place to where he's not as connected as the queen was. His masculinity has sort of isolated him a bit emotionally to where he can't connect to a lot of things within himself that other people can, and that other people wouldn't have problems with the queen, for example. So in addition, he's not only is he isolated, he's severely isolated. So he's a bit disconnected. So when I get this card, I think of someone that can't really connect to a lot of their primal emotions, or to a lot of their complex emotions that older people will have. And he does that because he just doesn't accept that part of himself, or he just sort of wants to man it out, or tough it out, or whatever. So same kind of reason where he's not looking at the cup. Again, him not looking at the cup shows me the isolation that he has from the emotions, as well as the obvious throne isolation. In addition, we have not one color of water, but we have two, right? We have the blue and the green, and you don't really see that combination anywhere else as far as the blue and the green. I mean, you see a little turquoise green, a little green here, but you see your dramatic green, and that matches his shoes as well, showing the life, showing the ability for emotions to give him life, or give him the things that he needs in life. And that's just my opinion, of course, but we have that throne and that isolationism. But he does have a deep emotions. He just can't really connect to it. He can't really understand it. So he's not looking at the cup, isolationism. He's floating in the middle of nowhere, isolationism. And the ship really sort of brings that home, that he's not a couple of feet off the shore. He looks like he's maybe way out in the sea. And we have that hint. And the fish here is looking up to him, but the fish is dead. It's just jewelry. It's a drastic difference between the live fish that we have in the Page of Cups. So interesting take, an interesting card with the King of Cups. And speaking of emotions, I love my Patreon supporters. What is that, you ask? Patreon is where you can throw me a couple of bucks if you like this tutorial and you like my free readings, which I don't think anyone else is doing right now. You like these tutorials, which I don't think anyone is doing right now. So we have a lot of things on the channel that are unique. If you'd like to support me and help pay for the software that I use to compile all of this and put it together, and all the intros and all the tarot cards that we're making and all this other stuff, please link in the description where you can support me. My current supporters on Patreon are Adam G, Alley Cat, Annie Lemaster, Brianna Santiago, Carmen Gabriano, Carolyn Bouchard, Crystal McGinn, Astro Corey, Fatima, Galatia 9, Gary Fink, Hot Chocolate, Jessica Mante, John Foote, Irina, Linda 47, Kim Wilson, KSW, La Ami, Richard Z, Shintaro Kuga, Sinai Zamora, Trina Itaverio. Thank you so much for being my supporters. And as always, please hit like and subscribe on the video. It helps get traffic to the channel. See you in the next video would be the last one. See you there.